Yo everyone, these are my full card predictions for UFC Fight Night Namajunas vs Cortez. I'll be covering every fight on the card, starting with the main event and working my way down the card to the prelims. There will be timestamps in the description and in the comments if you're looking for any fight in particular. Without delaying any further, let's jump into the main event, which is Rose Namajunas vs Tracy Cortez. I've said it before many times and I'll say it again, I don't like picking fighters that take fights on short notice, since it's such a massive disadvantage to jump in without adequate preparation. Tracy Cortez is solid all around though, and she does have some great tools in her arsenal which made me think about it for a second, but she can be very hittable and definitely gets hit more as the fight progresses into the later rounds. Tracy Cortez also hasn't versed anyone that has the footwork of Rose Namajunas, I don't think, and she's mostly versed fighters that can be quite ploddy and tend to walk her down more. Also important to mention, this is a 5-round fight. So this favors Namajunas, and I think I can see Tracy Cortez slowing down towards the third round of this fight and most likely losing via decision. Rose looked pretty quick and overall looked solid in her loss to Manon Fiorot, and she didn't look too bad in her most recent fight against Amanda Ribas either. Anyways, to reiterate my pick, I'm siding with Rose Namajunas to get the win in this matchup, most likely by decision. And we move on down the main card. Santiago Ponzinibbio versus Muslim Salikhov. Man, this one's a rough one to pick. If I remember correctly, Randy Brown KO'd Muslim Salikhov not too long ago, and Kevin Holland knocked out Ponzinibbio too in his last fight. Both men are coming off of big losses. Both are older as well. Muslim Salikhov is 40 years old, and Ponzinibbio is 37, which is important to note. If I had to go with my gut feeling, I think I'd go with the underdog Muslim Salikhov in this one. It's just because I've seen Ponzinibbio being pieced up by Alex Morono in their fight before he found the finish on the feet, and it just makes me think that Muslim Salikhov will be able to have some solid success on the feet too. But this was a rough fight to pick. Actually, most fights on this card are, to be honest, are rough fights to pick, but we give it our best go on the predictions regardless. Like I mentioned, if I had to edge it to anyone, I'd edge it to Muslim Salikhov just because I believe at this point in their careers, he may have more success in the stand-up exchanges, and if this was a prime Ponzinibbio, I might be probably siding with Ponzinibbio to be honest, but I don't think it is anymore. We move on. Drew Dober versus Gene Silva. I'm going to go with Drew Dober in this one. I literally just picked Gene Silva to beat Charles Jourdain like a week ago, and he got it done there, which was cool to see. And he's decided to move up on short notice, coming off of that fight to fight with Drew Dober in the lightweight division. I think Gene Silva does have the skills to make this one close, but it's hard to imagine him putting Dober away on the feet. Dober has a pretty solid chin, even though he lost his last fight against Matt Favola by finish, but he was still with it in that fight. He never got put out. I think Gene Silva may potentially look a lot faster than Dober out there too, which has me a little worried, but I just can't pick Gene Silva on a week's notice. If this was a full training camp with a proper move up in the weight, I might have picked Gene Silva confidently since I believe he's got the skills to go pretty far in the division. I also think this one's going to end up in a finish since both guys have the tendency to move forward and march down their opponent to unleash powerful punches, but I am going to go with Drew Dober to get this one done, most likely by TKO in the early rounds. We move on. Gabriel Bonfim versus Ange Loosa. Gabriel Bonfim gets this one done, I think. Now, I know Bonfim got finished by Nicolas Dalby in his last fight, but I think he'd be pretty excited to get back out and to prove he still got it, and he's still at the top of his game. The pace that Dalby put on Bonfim in that fight was insane as well, and Bonfim was outdoing him in the grappling in the first and in the second, at least at the start of the second as well, so it wasn't the worst performance of all time from him. Not like he got destroyed the entire fight and then got finished, and I really don't see Ange Loosa putting that sort of pace on Bonfim. I also don't think that Ange Loosa has had the best performances. I don't think he's looked great in his fight against Reece McKee, and I think he has definitely not looked that good and got outworked by Brian Battle in their fight before it got turned into a no contest. I don't know. I just think that Bonfim has the tools necessary to finish on Loosa in this fight if he wants to as well, but I could see him winning a decision too. That's who I'm going to go with. We move on. Julian Erosa versus Christian Rodriguez. I'm going to go with Christian Rodriguez. I think this one should be a relatively easy one for Christian Rodriguez on paper. I can see him pretty easily winning a decision in this fight. You guys probably know Christian Rodriguez since he was the one to beat Raul Rosas Jr. and hand him his first loss. When someone is able to beat Raul Rosas Jr. and also be able to beat Cameron Simon, you know they're quite solid all around as a fighter. There's always a chance Julian Erosa catches him with some sort of sub, since he likes to throw up a DAS every now and again when the opportunity presents itself. But I think Christian's just too good at scrambling, and his defensive grappling is quite solid. It looked great in his fight with Raul Rosas Jr. Quick one, but I'm taking Christian Rodriguez to win, most likely by decision. Moving on, Abdul Razak Alhassan versus Cody Brundage. I'm going to go with Abdul Razak Alhassan, and here's why. I don't think this will end up being the most exciting bout on the card, and I can see Abdul Razak Alhassan just landing more and being more active in this fight than Cody Brundage. I honestly don't think Cody Brundage fires that much output in terms of his strikes throughout his fights, and I think he'll need to do that and mix in some well-timed takedowns with good amounts of volume to win this fight. I don't really see that happening. I think Alhassan has okay takedown defense, and I think he's been able to scramble pretty well enough just to get back to his feet, and I think he'll be able to do that in this matchup where he can do his best work. Like I've said many times in this video, these fights are razor close, so it could go either way, but this is my prediction for this fight in particular. Alhassan by decision most likely, maybe even a TKO on Brundage as well. We move on. On to the prelim bout, Joshua Van versus Charles Johnson. Gotta go with Joshua Van here. Most likely this will be a stand-up back and forth battle between these two, and Joshua Van is just an absolute machine when it comes to walking down his opponents. He's got a granite chin as well, which will favor him in an outright brawl and the exchanges in this fight. I do think Charles Johnson has got an incredible chance to win in this fight. He's got great stand-up and he's a solid grappler as well. He's got great scrambles, and I do think this fight should be pretty much even in terms of odds. The reason why I say that, and it's mostly because of one thing in particular that I'm worried about with Joshua Van winning this fight, and that is the fact that this is a 3-round fight, and Joshua Van seems to always start slow. He always seems to lose the first round of his fights. If Charles Johnson can have a solid round 1 and push for round 2, I could see him winning a 29-28 decision win. I'm still going to go with Joshua Van to get this one done. I'm hoping for a spectacular KO victory in the second round, but most likely this will be a decision win for Joshua Van, probably taking the second and third rounds in this fight just because he starts slow usually. That's my pick. We move on. Jasmine Jasudavicius versus Fatima Kline. I'm going to go with Jasmine Jasudavicius. I think of what I've seen of Fatima Kline is that she's quite a solid grappler, but her stand-up is quite lacking. It does look like she is quite tentative on the feet, and against someone like Jasmine Jasudavicius that can walk you down and isn't afraid of eating punches to throw their own, and she'll hit you with some knees in the clinch too, I think it's going to be a bad matchup for Fatima Kline. Jasmine has some solid takedown defense and isn't the worst defensive grappler herself, so that just makes me more sure about the outcome of this fight. Hopefully Jasmine Jasudavicius stuffs all the takedowns, because if she does that, I can see her winning this pretty convincingly and potentially getting a finish too. Obviously, you can never know, but I think Jasmine Jasudavicius gets the win. We move on. Montel Jackson versus Blackshear. I'm going to go with Montel Jackson in this fight. I just think Montel has the power and the striking accuracy needed to go quite well and have his moments on the feet with it against Blackshear. The guy's able to knock down his opponent 1 to 2 rounds over the course of a 15-minute fight. He's got fantastic power. His takedown defense is actually pretty good. I think Blackshear will start to have trouble trying to play his usual game and won't be able to get Montel Jackson to the ground as easy as he wants and as easy as his other opponents. I also think his defensive grappling is quite solid too, so even if he gets him down, he might be able to avoid some bad setups and positions as well. This is a close fight, like all of them, but I think Montel Jackson will be too slick on the feet for Blackshear, and he'll be able to find a finish sometime in the later rounds. Blackshear does leave himself open and takes quite a few shots per minute, I think, and that's not good against one of the most powerful strikers in the division. We move on. Luana Santos versus Mariya Agapova. I'm going to go with Luana Santos here. Moderate favorite. She's got herself a solid win streak. Mariya Agapova is on a bit of a lose streak as well. Luana Santos is a very active striker, doesn't mind fighting in the clinch, has decent kicks to the legs and body. But in saying all of this, it's funny. I always have to end up disagreeing with myself or just explaining to see how the other person would win. But yeah, in saying all of this, Agapova can be aggressive on the feet, and she does have decent power in terms of her striking, so I would worry if Luana Santos doesn't implement some takedowns in this fight, and if that Agapova might let her hands fly a bit more, since she may not be as wary from a takedown if she doesn't fire enough. So for the final prediction for this fight, I'm going to go with Luana Santos, most likely by decision, as long as she mixes in some solid striking with some grappling. Moving on to the last fight in this video, Josh Fremd versus Andre Petroski. This is a coin flip, guys. I think I'm going to go with Andre Petroski though. I know the guy just got knocked out by a hip somehow. I've never seen that before in the UFC, but I think he'll be able to catch Josh Fremd and potentially put him away in this fight, if not win by decision. I was tempted to pick Josh Fremd since he's the slight favorite. He's got the height and reach advantage. He's huge for the division too, but he just doesn't seem to use those advantages like you'd hope. As far as what I can see, he prefers to get in close, he clinch fights, and tries to grapple with his opponent a lot more than staying on the outside trying to piece them up from a distance. Andre Petroski's got solid takedown defense, and he's got really good power in his hands. The only downside is that I think that he gets hit a little too much, but I'd still favor him to win this fight. But man, I could honestly see Josh Fremd being more active in his striking and looking more solid on the feet and just having more success though. I'm not really going to stress myself out about this one too much, guys. Close one, siding with Andre Petroski, but who knows. That's the end of the video, guys. I do want to say one thing. I want to appreciate all the comments that I've gotten just on recommendations from different videos, especially my most recent video, and I appreciate the engagement in the polls as well. Anytime you guys have got a video idea, just put it in the comments down below. I save all the video ideas so that I can use them for the future. I'll put them in polls, so whichever one wins, I can make that video straight away. Thanks again, guys, for watching, and see you guys next time.